This is the first guitar we're going to be using for this video. This is a Musicraft Northern Ash body. It's their Frankie cut, so it's got all the goofy routes underneath and everything, the chisel and all that stuff. Standard Fender tremolo. I believe it's their 61 vintage reissue or something like that. The pickup is a Gibson Burstbucker. It's 8.5K. It was not potted. I've potted it. Did the old surfboard wax and candle wax mixture. The neck is a Warmoth. It is 1 3/4 inch wide. It's like a copy of the original Charbells. It's got the no skunk stripe. It's got the maple fingerboard. Standard nut, obviously, and just some Goto tuners on this one. Schaller's Goto, same thing essentially. And this will be the first guitar. The other one is coming up. I'll show you that in a second. Alright, here's guitar number 2. This would be, this is like the Ibanez Destroyer. This is actually the Greco Destroyer. This is a 1977. It's the same instrument. They're made out of Japanese sen wood. Which is like an ash wood. Super great. I mean, cool guitars. These things are so nice. They're, like I said, they're identical, same factory as the Ibanez Destroyer. Really one of my favorite instruments. This thing just sounds and plays great. I did change out the tuners. This has Schaller tuners on it. Otherwise, it did have the Super 70 for the pickup in it. I could never quite get the sound. They sound cool. They really sound cool, but I couldn't get the sound that I was looking for to do this whole Van Halen 1 album thing. So this is a DiMarzio Super Distortion in here. Everything else is still stock. Tone control still hooked up. Everything's still hooked up on this. Neck pickup works. Everything is stock. So let's see what this one sounds like too. Hey guys, welcome to my fellow Van Halen geeks. Welcome to the quest for the Brown sound. Consider yourself, you're enrolled in the PhD program here. I have dissected this. I've been playing for years. I've done the tour thing. I've got recorded material. I've done my own stuff. I've got a career in the music business. I've had a long one, as you can tell. But I heard Van Halen in 1978 on Thanksgiving Day. A buddy of mine dropped the needle on the first album right when it came out, and I've been enamored ever since. I mean, what a talent, what a guy, what a great guitar player, what a great musician, and the starting of a movement. So needless to say, I was hooked, and like I said, I went on and did my own thing and played with my own bands, and I've appeared on records, I've toured, blah blah blah. This isn't about that. This is just about my love for Van Halen and my love for how he played and the sound that he got and how he changed the way everybody heard and thought about guitar. I mean, just flipped everything on its end. So I kind of want to take off. Pete Thorne and Dave Friedman did a couple of really great videos with swapping out all the pickups, trying out I mean, if you haven't seen them, look them up. They're great. And those two guys have done some stuff that it's a ton of work and so informative and just such a great service to all of us nerds out here. The other one they did was tubes in a Marshall Super Lead. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is just the Marshall Super Lead. We're talking about the early Van Halen sound, Van Halen 1, because it changes after that. But the whole Pete Thorne, Dave Friedman, tube video, pickup video, and then there's some other guys out there, like there's Mike Himmel, who does this phenomenal rendition of Eruption. Look him up. He's got some great stuff too. Liquid Charlie, all those guys, great players, great things. I'm trying to do something a little different here. I'm going to play the stuff for you. We're just going to focus on Van Halen 1. If people dig this video, I'll go through and kind of document how to do Van Halen 2 and the subsequent albums after that, because those are actually much easier to get the sound than the first album. The first album is weird. This is going to be, it's a deep dive, and we're going to show you the ins and outs of how this thing goes and how you get to the sound, and how what was he, 22 or some 22-year-old kid back then, going into the studio after playing clubs and that sort of thing with a Marshall Super Lead, and how it really sounded, what kind of tubes. I mean, I've settled on, I'm pretty sure, I'm unsure if he had EL34s or 6CA7s in the amp. the tone changes are there, but the way the amp is EQ'd in the studio, it just affects. There's a bottom end character. There's a low end character that's a little bit elusive, but I've got the IK Multimedia Sunset Sound Reverb, so we'll be using that. I'm using all Waves plugins mostly and Apple Logic. I'm using the API 550 plugins. I'm running 2 tracks, one for the one for each SM57, one on the JBL and one on the Celestion 4x12 cabinet. And that's about it. As something comes up, I'll address it with another video or something. We'll see. Anyway, sit back, enjoy. Let me know if you have any. Oh, one other thing. I'm saving the surprise, the big surprise. What's the word I'm looking for? The big secret thing. The big secret sauce to the sound. I'm saving it till the very end of the video because I think you're going to be surprised. But it's all Marshall Super Lead. It's the guitars I showed you. It's the simple pedal board I'm going to show you in the signal chain. And that's it. So have fun. Enjoy. Alright, here's the amp. 68 spec, bone stock, Marshall 100 watt Super Lead. It is a clone, it is a built amp, so it's got mercury magnetics transformers in it. But it's also, the mains transformer has also got it's got a lower plate voltage, lower primary output on it. And it's at 115 volts from the wall, or like 117 volts, it's putting out about 415 volts DC. So it's lower than like your standard 68 Super Lead, which I think is like 470 or 490, somewhere in that range. But you can adjust for that and you bias it accordingly to try to get the Van Halen spec. The amp is biased at, you set your plate voltage around 350 volts, which is where a normal Super Lead or an original Super Lead would be at 90 volts AC on the Variac. You'd be about 350, 360 volts DC on the plates. So I set the bias the same way. For me, I set that at 105 volts. So the amp's at 105 volts and I set that. I know, confusing, and I'm talking in circles, but but that's the gist of it. So when you run the amp down lower than that, you get a colder bias, which is, I think, part of where the brown sound lives. Also, I'm running the 6 CA7s, Electro Harmonics in here, if you can see it. I'm only running 2 of them, and I think that if you're looking at a young guy, a young kid playing clubs with a Marshall Super Lead, 100 watt Super Lead, they're doing everything they can to try to quiet that amp up. And I'm telling you, 100 watt Marshall Super Lead, even running at 90 volts with a Variac, is a loud beast. I mean, they're ungodly loud. So I think he was doing everything to try to quiet the amp down. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going through for that same mindset in creating this video, is that what would somebody playing clubs with a 100 watt Marshall be trying to do? So anyway, that's a little bit insight on the amplifier. Okay, here's the pedal board that we're using for this thing. It's a vintage MXR, mid-70s, late 70s flanger. Then I've got a script logo. It's one of the newer ones, but it's the script logo version of the MXR Phase 90. And then I've got one of the original mid-70s, probably 76, 77-ish Echoplex EP3. Ignore all this stuff over here. It's not in the signal. It's not in the chain. That's just more nonsense. But for this video, this is all that's patched in. Cables I'm using, I've got two 30-foot Planet Waves standard D'Addario. So 30-foot going to the guitar and a 30-foot going to the amplifier. In between there's this vintage old monster cable. We got 70 feet of guitar cable here within the signal. Okay, so here we are in the so-called ISO booth. This is the bathroom of the studio. The 412 box is sitting here in the shower stall. I've got a moving blanket up there for get rid of some of the echo reflections, whatever in here. You can see the JBLs. I got two JBL D120s in the top there. And there's a couple of greenbacks in the bottom. Obviously you can't see those. Two SM57s. There's some breathing room between the two of them. They're straight on axis, lined up about right where the dust cap meets the cone. So they're pretty bright. or it's set up for like a kind of a bright sound. And we're going to have a decibel meter in here. Here's the toilet, but I keep it covered for the echo. I'm going to use a zoom recorder in here so you hear what the room sounds like, what the cabinet sounds like with nothing else on it. There's going to be a dB meter sitting right here in a camera, so you'll be able to see how loud it is in here. And then up here, up in the corner, I've got a large diaphragm condenser that's just going to capture the room up there in the corner. It's facing away from the speaker cabinet. Alrighty. So there it is. What'd you think? You completed your PhD in brown sound. It's, you know what, it's a pretty simple thing, but it's innovative, it's cool, and I promised you the secret sauce. A couple things before the secret sauce, because this is gonna shock you, I think. All right, all Logic, all Apple Logic, all plugins, no outboard gear as far as the recording side of things goes. No fancy preamps, nothing like that. The API 550As pass through, straight through. No, they're straight up and down flat. No, they haven't been EQ'd in any way, shape, or form. They just run through. I run a couple of 1176 plugins for compression, but it's so minor. It's hardly anything. It's just maybe 2 dB, 3 dB, something like that. Really nothing to it. The big secret, as far as the EQing goes for the Van Halen sound, it's a Pultec EQ, or it's what I'm using is Apple's Logic version. I think they call it their vintage tube EQ or something, but it's a Pultec EQ, and it's got the same kind of response and all that stuff. So that's what I'm using. I remember reading that like an old obscure Soldano interview where he was talking about he knew. And he wasn't sure he was supposed to say anything, but that they were supposed to kind of keep it quiet. But the big secret to the Van Halen sound was the Pultec EQ, and nobody ever really talks about that. Everybody thinks it's the EQ before the amp, it's this, it's that, it's that. It's not. It's Pultec EQ. At least in my opinion. That's what I'm using. That's the only EQ that's on this recording. The amplifier. All right, here comes the big secret, the big hot secret. Okay, the amp is running at 87 volts, but remember I've got that transformer that's slightly, it has less, that mains transformer supplies the B plus, the plate voltage, lower. It's considerably lower. So I'm running at 87 volts to get that sound, which means my plate voltage is somewhere probably down in the 290 range, 300 range, something like that. So it's running way off spec, but one thing that transformer allows you to do is allows you to keep the heater voltage up a little bit higher even when you're turning the variac way down. So it's neither here nor there. But I think that the voltage that Ed talked about, that's the 90 volt that keeps getting bandied about. It's probably close to that depending on the mood and depending on the era. I think it gets lower than that as we get further along the album career. I think he gets down to much lower. But anyway, enough rambling. The amplifier, every knob is on 10. Every tone knob is on 10. Presence is on 10, bass is on 10, middle's on 10, treble's on 10. However, volume 1 and 2, the inputs are not jumpered, but volume 1 and 2 are not on 10. They're both on about 7.5. 7 to 7.5 is the sweet spot, because if you dime the amplifier, it gets way too fizzy, fuzzy, and flubby, and you don't get that same tone that happens on Van Halen 1. There is no way you can eliminate it. I don't care what kind of tubes you've got in the amp. I don't care what kind of pickup you're running, and I'm running a fairly clean pickup, and all it does is get fuzzy and nasty. So think about it. If you're a young kid coming into a studio, first time ever in a recording studio, really, for all intents and purposes, and the engineers are telling you, you know, back the volume off a little bit. Clarity is king when you're recording. I guarantee you, when I play this Super Lead live, every knob is on 10. It sounds killer. But when you're sticking a couple of microphones in front of it, no, you want to back off the gains a little bit. It's not gains, but you want to back off volume 1, volume 2. So there it is. There's the big secret. Let me know if you have any questions. I will try to respond. Thanks for watching. See ya.